Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. I hope you are in for a great video. This is kind of a special day for reasons I won't state, automotive related, not tool related, but now it's a special day because it's tool related. I'm not somebody that's ever used clickbait or misleading titles on YouTube, but I can tell you right now this is getting blurred out on the thumbnail, and we're not going to have the title of the item in the description. You're going to have to stick around for just a little bit. I will tell you though, for those of you that complain about the length of the video or anything, I have it remedied. I use timestamps. I go to great lengths to have the drop down arrow available to you, and you can see timestamps. They'll take you to wherever you want to go. If you want to spoil the video, totally up to you. It will save you a lot of time, but I can tell you this is just one item. This shouldn't be terribly long, although towards the end we're going to do a breakdown and kind of let you know why we went the route that we did. So, true story, I was going to start with something different, but I just realized that I got the wrong item. And I will also say the KC tool hauls have been a little messed up here lately, just because like there's so many things that all piece together that I order separately based on what's in stock and what's not in stock. And then with lead times, like a lot of things aren't here. There's some things that are like super close to being a good video, but they're missing like one or two pieces. And this is something that I've just freaking wanted to have ready to go for a long time. It all panned out being in stock, and since this is a good day for me, I'm going to make it a good day for you, and we're just going to jump right into it. I can tell you right now that these items did secure a bit of thanks and a German tool sticker pack in and of themselves. So again, anytime you spend over $100, you're going to snag yourself a German tool sticker pack. And anytime you place an order, whether it's $5 and you spend more on freight than the item, you get a bit of thanks. It's currently a number 2 Phillips by Vit. So what we're going to do is just kind of throw these down, okay? And behind the scenes, this tag, I promise you, that does see use. I just leave it on there for the comparison video we'll eventually do. But these are some German wrenches, if you will. We've got Ghidorah, we've got Vera, we've got Stavilla, and we've got Hazet. Okay, these are sort of their like standard issue wrenches, not extra length, not offset, not anything crazy, just run-of-the-mill wrenches. And I've mainly just had everything in metric for the most part, right? Here and there we bring in something that I think will help me in the meantime, but I kind of wanted metric is not my bread and butter. You know, I realize I'm in the minority there, that's fine. Old school SAE, fractional, imperial, whatever you want to call it, that's where I cut my teeth. That's what I do at work, that's what I do at home, primarily. It's where I prefer to stay, you know, 60s and 70s muscle cars, and therefore this is sort of my playground to test. You know, I can sort of expend here on metric side because I didn't have much, and then I can determine what I wanted the most for SAE. I will tell you right now, on the American front, my favorite wrenches I have ever used to date are old Proto Challengers. I don't know the era they're from. I would guess 80s, possibly early 90s. I really have no way. That predates my time of knowing those things or doing purchasing. Those have been great wrenches. And my second one would be Right Grips. The third would be SKs, although ours, the chrome is pretty well gone. It's not gone, it's just like you'd never know. It's like the SK Super Chrome, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. It's an odd hodgepodge and mix mash. There's KD, Eastco, Craftsman, there's some Snap-on. I think there used to be Mac. Anything with exotic, well-known names tends to walk off with people, minus like 13/16ths that get left behind. But it's one of those deals. I have used a pretty strong gauntlet, granted nothing like super recent outside of ratcheting wrenches, you know, in the modern realm, but it is on my agenda to bring in a proto wrench, probably like a 1/2 or 9/16, something I'll use a lot, and I want to see what the current ones are like, because if they can kind of get that same feel, you know my feelings, I like the matte chrome that you kind of see with Germany. Wright also has a matte finish. They also have a super polished finish. But when you think American wrenches, you typically think of like overdone chrome. Some people love it, some people hate it. This is what I prefer. It doesn't slip. Another perk, you know, if you're working under lights, it's rarely an issue, but it does glare a little bit more. Some of you, if you've got crazy lighting above you, you might notice that. You get blinded every once in a while. So that became more of an issue at work when the skylights all got busted out. We went with LEDs, It's one of those things, if you ever like look up at the LED light fixture, like it blinds you. And it is a situation where every once in a while something comes off the lathe and it like catches the light just right. Like, yeah. Minor thing, mainly for me, it's the grip, and just aesthetically, I happen to prefer it. I know it's kind of the odd thing, but it's just me. It's personal preference, all subjective, as aesthetics always are. So that brings us back to what would I want here at the house. And like I said, you know, the proto stuff, I'll have to kind of see what we can feel out, what we can find, see how it stacks up against what was sold back in the day. Personally, I'm still kind of fooling around with the idea of like really building something out at work, you know, that I can keep locked up so everything stays where it's supposed to be. And if I go that route at work, there's either a chance we go runner up here, we replicate what I do here, or I may just very well go with the Wrights or the Protos. It's all up in the air. But back to this situation. Out of all these wrenches I've played with, there's really two that I think are pretty dadgum impressive. And it is not the Hazette. The Hazette is a nice wrench. It's just a little bit expensive, like stupid expensive, excessively expensive in comparison. Something unique that Hazette does, you'll see like that's matte chrome. You're like, no, that's polished, dude. And you're like, wait, no, that's matte chrome. And you're like, no, that's polished. What's going on here? Well, that's kind of just something they do. It does bother me. I'm not gonna lie. It's just not consistent. I get it's sort of like their thing, but it just bothers me. Also, the price point on them, I don't understand why it's so much higher than it is, you know, like across the pond. Hazette is like a super tier, you know, like you've got Vera that's always reasonably priced, Knipex is reasonably priced, you know, and then you kind of bump up and you've got like Stavilla, Gador, sometimes they fluctuate and they're lower end, kind of have to depend on what the item is, where the price point falls. The one thing you can almost always bank on, if you're like, well, which one costs the most? If you just throw out Hazette, you're going to be right like 95% of the time in the American marketplace. Sales, obviously, there's a few items they have that are like oddly inexpensive, but everything else is like oddly excessively high. Okay, and so for that reason, that kind of gets cast to the side. Vera Joker, super unique. It looks funky. I get it. It's got the Easter egg. They spent a lot of time designing it. It feels great in hand. Unsung hero of this is really like the thumb pad thing. I personally love that. I don't know how many other people do. They've got different geometries. They work well. With the Joker ratcheting wrenches, you have that fastener catch. That's actually a handy feature as well. Very reasonably priced. You got the Take It Easy tool finder, which when you're invested in their ecosystem is pretty cool, but it's just not my pick out of these wrenches. Coming up in second place, runner-up if you want to call it, it would be the Gador. I personally think these are super underrated and underappreciated, and you might be seeing more of them in the future. I really have nothing bad to say about this. They don't have as comprehensive of a selection for SAE size. That's going to be a big issue with like the German marketplace, especially in sockets. We're kind of evolving into finishing things out, you know. It's been part of the journey, and now I'm kind of like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I like the best, this is the route we're going to go. And sometimes I can't do that because the metric size, you'll be set and ready to go, do what you want to, but like an SAE, like they might just decide like, you don't really need 6 points here, or, you know, 12 point, well, we're going to stop that at this size. And I can't explain it. I'm sure there's good reasoning for it. A lot of it probably having to do with they don't care to further evolve the market lineup for something that they don't think is going to sell frequently. So for those reasons, the Gador is kind of here. That applies across the board, what I just said. But I have nothing bad to say about this wrench. I love the ratcheting wrench. I have a 13 in that. It gets used quite a bit. This is the number 7. It's just a situation where it gets off to the side and we are left with the Stavilla. There's just something that I personally love about these wrenches. I can't explain it. They're lightweight. They feel usually, you know, you cut weight, you know, like you get some massive like I-beam, you know, rod inspired wrench. You're like, that's not going anywhere. And it's like, well, it's also not going a lot of places either, you know, due to the size. These are super thin. In fact, these would probably be thinner than what some people sell as their thin wrenches, if that matters to you. But at the same time, when you take thinness, you know, versus thickness, you usually lose comfort, especially for someone like myself. that prefers, you know, to have something of substance in my hands. These don't feel weak, they don't feel inferior. You've got kind of the best of both worlds. You lightened it and somehow they feel stronger. The finish out is great. Again, both of these I would really have no qualms about owning a set of. They're almost, I mean, you look at them and you just kind of pick your poison, right? But it's just one of those deals. I can't tell you. I love these 2 wrenches just like the old Protos, the Challengers, you know, I like them. I just explain it in that simple of a fashion to you. I will say the one complaint I will throw out for the Stavilos, and this is relatively minor, but it's just kind of annoying. If you look at these, they're very similar. You've got the size marking by the open end, you've got the branding, you've got the product line, and then the Gdor, something I do like is they have 13mm here by the box end. And you're like, well, Stavilo's got that too. No, they don't. They have open box 13. It gets super confusing, especially with metric, because open box 13, that's their series. They also have a 14. The 14 is going to be a little bit longer. So it's mainly only going to be an issue with, like with a 13, it's no problem. But if you go to grab a 10 and somebody grabs this, you know, in the shop for you, and they're like, here you go, and they hand it to you, and like, dude, that's a 13. Like, or you're like, you know, I needed 10, and they're like, no, check it out. You're gonna have that issue, right? Same thing when you flip it over, you've got it stamped on the top side, just not down there. It's a minor thing. Once you learn them, you use them. If you have like a sorter, you know, you kind of take care of it. So an advantage to the Gdor is just simply the fact that it's the number 7, which I guess could be confusing with like 6, 7, and 8mm stuff. But they also stamp on the flip side. Both of them very, very similar. Again, you've got your brand name, the product line, and then you've got your brand name, made in Germany. If you're curious about these Stavilos, same setup. So you kind of got like chrome alloy steel and Germany. All right, so where does that bring us? Well, I kind of reduced those in that order. Hazet, Vera, Gdor, and Stavilo, very tight there between those two. But backing out from the Omega M, we're going to throw down a massive pile of something for you. Anyone into numerology will know 12 is an important number. And I said that exactly at 12:12 on the clock here, so somehow we spent 10 minutes going over that. Wasn't my intention. But here we are. This is a pile of 12 wrenches. This is the Lance selection, if you will. Stavilo, let me just go ahead, maybe we'll jump into this now. They do some interesting things. I know what you're thinking, like, you should have bought a set. You know, if you have 12 wrenches, you needed to get a set. You need to have like a wrench roll or something. Let me break this down for you. So in the American marketplace, SAE, fractional imperial, whatever you want to call them, we don't get that luxury. If you were to buy these in a set, they come in like a plastic carton, kind of probably what we've seen with the Icon stuff, you know, the plastic wrench trays Snap-on might give you. I'm not a fan of those. I probably wouldn't use them long term. Now, if they came like foamed or something, which is something they can do for metric sets, but they don't really do for the SAE, that might be a consideration. Although Stavilo uses yellow foam, which I get it. Aviation, they want high vis. It's like, hey, you know, employee 57, where's your frickin' 9/16? Did you leave it in an engine, you idiot? Makes sense. I would prefer like green for Stavilo, you know, blue on a personal preference. I get it, you know, yellow high vis makes total sense for what they're doing, and it's nice they offer it. It's part of their TCS system. I think it's tool control, something like that. But it's just like, they'll do it for metric, and then SAE is kind of like cast to the side, right? Same thing, we don't even get the wrench roll with these, you just get the plastic carton. Some people might prefer that over the wrench roll, some of you may not. I'd kind of prefer to have the wrench roll, even though I wouldn't use it for these, and then I would use the wrench roll for like a mobile setup. It's kind of like my little plan moving forward there. But it's just a situation where the sets they have don't really cut it. And I think just so we can get some eye candy for you, we'll just break this down. Basically, the Sir Lancelot selection here, I don't know what we should dub this thing. If you got ideas, let me know. Maybe they'll sell it. Maybe KC Tool will bundle these. I don't know. This is not technically complete just yet, but these were all in stock. And I'd wanted to do it for a long time, and one night I was in there and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get those wrenches, and so I did. And we'll just jump through here, and then I might take these out on their own. My smallest wrench, the starting point, These will all be the 13A. That's going to be their Stavilla 13, just like you saw here in metric land. The A is going to indicate American or fractional, imperial, whatever you want to call it. We're going to start with quarter. So I'll have all of this linked down below. If you're like, I'd really like to try their 3/8 wrench. You know, I want something I'll use that's cheap so I can get a feel for it. This guy seems to love them. I'm not committing to that. I just want to try it. Whether you go small because it's cheap, whether you get like 7/16, half, 9/16, something that you'd probably use frequently, whether you go for like something that overlaps with metric, it's entirely up to you. I make nothing off of any of this. It's all there for your convenience. I really should, because virtually everyone else does, and at this point I've done this for 70 plus videos. All right, just KC tool hauls. I think I can vouch for myself. People can kind of feel me out. But as of recording this anyway, I make nothing, solely for your convenience. We're going to go through and price these out individually, but I'll have it all linked with part numbers and direct links to the product down below. 1418, so the smallest guy, 1418. Up next, we've got 5/16. The 5/16 is going to set you back 1477. Then we've got our 3/8 wrench. This is where some of you might start. I like having the two smaller wrenches for my complete set personally. 1729. 7/16. This is kind of when you get in the bread and butter, where even like metric people might use these next three sizes on occasion. 7/16, 1796. Half inch. Again, going to use this all the time with 5/16 hardware. 1880. Then we've got 9/16, and good lord, do I ever use a lot of 3/8 hardware, so 9/16 is very important to me. You're going to be looking at 2132. This is our first wrench that jumps over the $20 threshold. 5/8, going to use that on occasion. You're looking at 24 bucks. Now you kind of start to get into the sizes where you can appreciate the stampings and the feel a little bit better, right? 11/16, don't use it too terribly often, but on occasion, especially like shock bolts, I believe. So we're looking at 3071. So big jump from 5/8 to 11/16. Not a very big jump up to the well more known 3/4 size for your half-inch hardware. You'll be looking at 3105. After that, you're getting into like a really big wrenches, you know, 13/16, 7/8, all that stuff. So did I do, there she is, 13/16 right here. Is going to be 3692. Flipping the page, this was a 2-page order, I tell you. We went all in on this one. 7/8, going to use that a lot. 3944. This one I use at work. It's primarily on like brass tube nuts, right? 7/8 comes into play, half-inch brass tube nuts. And then 15/16. You know me, you've heard me talk and complain about how no one ever includes 15/16 in a set. And if you do anything 5/8, you also will complain about no one including 15/16. It's the biggest wrench, the final piece, number 12 in this setup. It is going to set you back $44.98. Now, what I'm going to do is go off camera, open all these glorious things up. It'll save you time. Some of you might enjoy it. I know I would. But we're going to set them out, fan them out, whatever we want to do. And then I'm going to talk to you about why I pieced these together individually and what we still plan to add to this set. And there's the payoff right there. So the Tower of Power, the Stavilla wrenches, you probably won't often see this. 1/4 to 15/16 Stavilla wrenches in America, Texas of all places, and I wouldn't have it any other way. These are fantastic. I am super excited about having this. This is my personal choice after trying and testing things out, kind of behind the scenes. I'd kind of had my mind up for quite a while, just finally pulled the trigger, and you'll be seeing some more kind of like, ooh, you know, big comprehensive purchases here coming up. But this is definitely one that I am thrilled to actually have here ready, available, and set to go. So how did I buy these? What did I do? Did I really just click add to cart for 12 individual wrenches? I absolutely did. And if you're thinking like, idiot, you know, sure, you don't get the wrench roll, but you would have saved money with the set. That is not correct. Shockingly, I know. Over here, we're used to things where, you know, if I run into Home Depot, if we go into Lowe's, if it's Ace, True Value, you know, whatever you might have, Menards, Tractor Supply, tool truck, If you wanted to buy, you know, like a 9/16 wrench, you're going to pay a premium for it. And in some cases, it's like, man, the set's so much cheaper. You know, that's why I like people that go into the store because they're remodeling a kitchen, or they got new, you know, cabinet knobs, or they got new electrical outlet covers type of a thing. They need a screwdriver, and they go in, and it's like, man, you know, this thing is $10 for one screwdriver. I could just get all 5 of these for 19. It's that type of a setup. And we're in a situation where that's not always the case with the German tool manufacturers. I guess the German efficiency model, you know, it's almost more prevalent, I guess, to come in and buy just what you need. You always hear of the 10, 13, 17, 19, right? And that's all you get. That's all that you'll need. Well, I guess that's sort of across the board thing, where if I'm primarily going to use quarter, 5/16, 3/8, half, and 3/4 inch hardware, I would only buy wrenches and sockets for that particular size. If I'm only going to turn number 2 Phillips screws, I just buy a number 2 Phillips. It's sort of like a different mindset, I guess. I'm sure some people, you know, even in Germany would disagree, and like, I want a complete set. Some people over here, even though it's more common to just be like, well, I want a set of wrenches and I want no skips because I might need it and I don't want to be without it. That's the common mentality that you'll hear amongst any mechanic, technician, even just like people on YouTube. It's like, oh, this set sucks, it has skips, I'm probably going to need that 9mm someday. And that's just kind of like a mindset difference, right? I don't think it's like, oh, you know, I got to have them all. It's more like, well, what if I need that? And that stems largely from people being in a situation, let's say that this set skipped 15/16, or the SKX frames don't go to 15/16. It's like, I need that. You know, what the heck, man? And bottom line, believe it or not, for these 12 wrenches, the way I put them together and just added literally 12 items to my cart, the grand total from all those numbers we rattled off earlier is going to be $271.98. And you're thinking like, you know, man, under $300 for a pretty comprehensive set of wrenches that are Stavilla no less, that's not really that bad. And that's exactly what I think. It's a situation. Is $271? Could I have done some serious work with some Husky wrenches? Absolutely. Would we have saved money? Yeah. Could we have gotten a couple of sets? You bet. This is just, I feel, on another level, right? You know, the Huskies kind of get the job done. They're pretty solid. But this is just, I don't know how to describe it. Just put it in your hand and, you know, you'll feel the difference. I'm hoping over time, long period of time, that follows through. You know, granted, you can go the route of like, well, these tools aren't as good, but they're pretty good, and when they're worn out or they bust, I'll just replace them for, you know, stupid cheap again. Or you can try to get something that's gonna last. I'm kind of that secondary mindset. It's sort of like if you're at a machine shop and they're like, you know, hey, you know, this is what your engine needs, we really need to come in, tear it down, rebuild it. And the guy's like, well, can't you just put rings on it? All the time. You go talk to a machine shop and they deal with this all the time. Same with transmissions, even with race people. You know, it's a situation like, man, we need to tear this apart, you're making too much power, you know, we need to upgrade your bands and everything. It's like, well, can't you just fix it? It's like, well, you're gonna have the same problem over and over again. Eventually, the hope is people figure things out, but it's a deal where there's just two different kind of mindsets in the world, right? There's a throwaway culture, and then there's kind of like, this is a tool for life, this is an heirloom deal, this is something that's short of natural disaster or thieves, you know, my nephew should wind up with, you know, when I pass away type of a deal. And so when you look at it that way, yeah, $271, you know, you can look at it like, man, that's a really good buy. Some of you are like, good Lord, you know, that's a lot of money. I could have gotten wrenches, Harbor Freight, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever, and I'll just replace them when they go bad. You're absolutely right. Eventually, I do believe, especially like with screwdrivers, you know, they're okay, but then you like turn 20 screws and it's like, man, this thing's kind of camming out and slipping all the time. You go back and you get the cheap screwdriver again, but it's like the good ones aren't that much more expensive. They're not like that cost prohibitive in the long run. Kind of depends on use and everything, but it's just like I said, it's kind of like a personal thing. Some go some way, some go the other. It also depends on the tool for a lot of people. Some people consider, you know, like impact sockets to be throwaway items, and you'll see them with cheap ones, and then some people are like, I want the very best, it's going to last the longest, and just to each their own type of thing, right? But $271.98 is what I put together. Stavilla basically has 3 sets for SAE wrenches. The 13A20, the 20 was going to indicate the number of pieces in the set. It is super comprehensive, all right? We're talking it goes from quarter all the way to 1 1/4, and you're like, man, that seems like it's right up your alley. And I totally agree with you. The thing is, it adds, it's kind of like, you know, I always tell you, like, I don't really know what I'll need metric because I don't deal with it that often. This is kind of when metric people make SAE wrenches. They've got a 9 32nd, they've got a 19 32seconds, and they've got a 25 32seconds. I can't say in my time on this earth I have ever used any of those 3 sizes, all right? 11 32seconds is a little bit more accepted, but realistically, when was the last time, outside of like something super specialized, that people come across 11 32? It's just stupid rare, right? And those 4 wrenches, 3 wrenches, 9 32seconds, 19, and 25 32seconds, combined, you're looking at $81.57, okay, if you were to buy them individually. And that's $81.57 that, following that German model of efficiency, like, I'm not going to use that. Get it out of here. That you saved yourself, right? Going with that, the 13A20, you come in at $612.62. That's a lot of money. Now, granted, it's basically everything you see here, plus 3 freak wrenches that you're probably never going to use unless you decide to turn them into door handles or something. And then it does include 4 big wrenches. 1 inch, 1 1/16, 1 1/8, and 1 1/4. Those 4 wrenches combine for $221.72. I will be totally upfront with you. When I said this set was not complete, it's not because I plan to add 25 32seconds. It's because I need to add 1 inch and 1/8, right? That's something that I'm going to use frequently. 1 1/4 probably gets added just in the event that there's like a heavy hex in 3/4 size or something. Inch and 1 1/16, I'm on the fence with them. I don't really frequently come across needing that. So 1 1/8 though, yes, I'll use that a lot with 3/4 hardware. That wrench alone is $60. But those 4 wrenches, the big ones, plus the 3 freaks, okay, that's going to add up to, let's see, we'd be looking at $221.72 plus the 81s. That's like, we'll just call it $303. And then if you add that to what I have here, you still, buying everything in the 13A20 individually, you would spend $575.27. And you're like, wait, I thought you just said the set was $612. The set is $612. If you buy the exact same pieces in the set, you save $37.35. I can't explain it. It makes sense to me that it would be opposite, like you'd save the money and it's incentive to buy the set type of a thing, sort of like offset the oddball sizes or something. But no, the set actually costs you an additional $40 basically. Some of you, again, for the plastic tray or carton, might like it if you're going to go with a wrench rack, or you just lay them flat if you've got some set up. That's a moot point, and you just threw away $40. There is a 13A tin set. Okay, this is going to go from 1/4 to 3/4, and a lot of you are like, hell, heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And you're like, wait, that should be like 7 wrenches. What's the deal? Well, they add 11 32seconds, they add 9 32seconds, and they add 19 32seconds. Between the 9 32seconds and the 19, you're looking at $26.35, $16.62, so basically $43 of wrenches that you're probably never going to use. Otherwise, the 1/4 to 3/4 is fairly comprehensive for small tasks, right? With that set, you would pay $209.80. If you buy them individually, you're going to spend $206.86. So you're losing about $3 in that case. And if you want the tray, you could easily argue like, hey, that's actually a better deal, and I get those freak wrenches, which I can make door handles out of, or like, granted, if you need 19 32seconds, you consider that, right? But I'm just saying, the average person, you're never going to touch that wrench. Moving on, I think the 13A8 sets might be the best for most people. It's going to be 7/16 to 7/8, so you get stuff that you would use. Now, the sad thing is, I feel like a lot of people are going to use 3/8 wrenches or need a 5/16 or 1/4 on occasion. It also stops at 7/8, but it is $209.80. If you were to come in and get those individually, you would be spending $206. So it's kind of a situation where every which way you go, you sort of lose out on the set. Now again, you got to weigh in what wrenches you use and how much you want a plastic tray. But going individually, oddly enough, you kind of come out on top across the board. So case in point, I can't create this set like you think, okay, we'll get their 8-piece and then combine it with a 10-piece. They don't really have a setup for that, right? There's not like, well, here's our 1/4 to 3/4 set and here's our 7/8 to 1.5 inch set. They don't really offer that, so you kind of would still have to piecemeal it together. And what I did, I'm very comfortable with these 12 wrenches. And like I said, I want to get an 1.1 inch, probably 1.25 inch. If someone can tell me reason to get the 1 or the 1 1/16, I'll do it. But again, those are expensive. 1 inch, $43, 1 1/16, $50, 1 1/8, $60, and then 1.25 inch is $68. So you start adding up quick. However, if I took these 12 wrenches and added the 4 big ones that we just covered, we would be sitting at $493.70, which is just significantly less than combining sets or anything along those lines. So that is why I pieced together the Sir Lancelot selection here, the 12 critical Stavilla wrenches. And like I said, truth be told, I'll just be straight up honest with you. For me personally, 7/16, half, 9/16, 3/4, 15/16, those are kind of the money makers. Those are what's going to be seen used all the time, whether that's at home or at work. On occasion, yeah, I'll probably drop down and use some of the smaller stuff, but really the 3 from 7/16 to half, and then you've got your 3/4 for 1/2 inch hardware, and then 15/16 for 5/8, 1 1/8 for standard 3/4 stuff. That's pretty much idea. If I had to do the German efficiency model for SAE wrenches, that's personally what I would use. Now obviously if you're dealing with, like, say, old school electronics that are tiny sizes, you might value smaller wrenches. If you're over there and you're working on like heavy equipment, you know, from the 70s or 80s, you're probably going to value the bigger wrenches, right? So this is, I believe, a great starting point that's going to cover virtually everything you would need outside of specific applications, especially when we get that extra 1 or 2 wrenches on the top end. But keep that in mind, and like I said, if you are in the market for replicating this, if you want to go Stavilla for your SAE wrenches, my personal advice, go individual. Whether you just like cheap out and you're like, man, these are kind of expensive, I don't want to spend that much money, just get what you need. I think once you've used the wrenches for a decent amount of time, you're really going to begin to appreciate them. You're going to be like, you know, I might need that, you know, 7/8 wrench on occasions, right? You'll slowly fill the sit out like I've done with other things we brought in. But that is kind of where we stand. This was like my, holy grail. This truly is for me like the dream set of wrenches. So do I want ratcheting wrenches? Would I prefer longer versions available, box ends, funky offsets? Absolutely. But like for a straight up stereotypical traditional combination wrench, I think this is kind of the bee's knees for me. So hopefully they continue to produce these. Again, I would think they would due to aviation stuff, kind of being a player in that market. But like I said, you probably don't see Stavilla wrenches in SAE sizes all that often. So consider me the odd duck or the freak, whatever you want to. I'm just happy to have them. Now, I'm not 100% sure how these will be stored permanently. I don't exactly know what route I'm going to take. But I do have something here handy that I'm going to go ahead and populate, and I'll show you what it looks like. Oh yeah, that's a sweet little sight, is it not? This is an Ernst gripper. This is one you can pick up and hold and sling, and they'll stay in place the majority of the time. Again, we're going 1/4 to 15/16. I think it looks awesome. If you count with me, we've got 1, 2, and 3. Again, I want to do 1 1/8. I want to do 1 1/4. Tell me, you know, are we better off with 1 inch or 1 1/16, or do we need like a 20-piece wrench rack, go all the way up to 1.5 inch or something crazy? I think this works great for now, obviously, especially if we were to populate it out. But I've had really good luck with the Ernst stuff, and it looks stupid good. Again, we'll eventually get into like finalizing and finishing everything out there. But I suppose we need to do a service to you and kind of highlight some of these wrenches that we just brought in. So this right here is probably, truth be told, going to see a crud ton of use. It is the 9/16. And again, right here you've got the size stamping, which is awesome, coinciding with the open end. But you come down here in the 13. Now, SAE, that's not a huge deal because you don't have a 13, you know. But I would like to see the 9/16 over there. If I could improve the Stavilla wrenches in any way, shape, or form, I would have the size marking on the combination end as well. Probably flipped, like we have this oriented where 9/16 is visible. I'd like 9/16 to line up in the same fashion for the box end. Flipping her over, again, you got the size marking in place, chrome alloy steel, and made in Germany, stamped with the country of origin there. So again, I'd love to see that size marking included there. Open ends on these have been phenomenal. The machining is great. The feel in hand, if you've never had one, I'd advise you pick one up, even if you're a metric person. Get a 10 or a 13 or something that you lose or need a second of. I think you will be impressed. In small sizes, you're not going to spend more than like 15 bucks for a single wrench. I think it's worth checking out. They are a 12-point box end. Personally, that is what I prefer. That's what I want. I deal with 12-point fasteners on engines. I can also grab square stock with them this way. And Stavilla, they do have the AS drive, so it's designed, even with their 12-point, to apply the load to the flats of the fastener and prevent rounding it out. If we come in now and just go straight to the Big Daddy, the 15/16, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, same exact setup here, obviously, 15/16. You get way more real estate as you upgrade these sizes. You know, like 3/8, you could argue, like, if they put their name, they don't really have space, you know, if it's a legible size marking. I'd give them a pass on that, but, you know, these bigger sizes, I'd love to have seen it. But it is what it is. However, just look at that. Again, matte chrome. I have zero complaints about it. The finish out on every Stavilla wrench I've ever owned has been immaculate. Nothing different here. But you can see Stavilla open box 13, and we flip her around. You've got the chrome alloy steel, country of origin again being Germany, and just beautiful wrenches across the board, in my opinion. So this truly is, I don't do clickbait titles when I say dream wrench set. That's kind of what this really is. It's a dream wrench set for me, and I don't really know why I waited this long to do it, but I did. And, like I said, the price point, really not that bad. $271, you know, you'd sit there and you'd think like, hey, you know, it's like cheaper than you can get off the tool truck. Yeah, it actually is. It's significantly cheaper than a tool truck. Especially, again, there's not a lot of people. Capri, I have to give them credit because they kind of have common sense. Like, I think you can get 1/4 to 1 inch there. That's what my ratcheting wrench set is. It's just a deal where that's going to cover, again, I personally prefer 1 1/8 versus the 1 inch or something, you know, but just the comprehensive sizes. Again, you typically have like 1/4 to 3/4, sometimes starting with 5/16 or 3/8. And then in the big sets, people are usually like 13/16 or 7/8 up, and some people overlook 13/16. It's just a strange deal. There's really nothing cohesive, you know, but piecing these together is your best bet. You can custom tailor a set of Stavilla wrenches to your liking, and you honestly save money. So again, like I said, short of one of those sets being perfect for you, or you just really love plastic trays, I know some people do, it's their preferred method of storage. If either one of those is the case, definitely consider them before you go shove, you know, 15 wrenches into your cart solo. But for me, I saved a ton of money going this route. We got a pretty solid buy on them. And again, these are wrenches that they're not going to be junked, right? They have a warranty. We have issues, but the intention is spending $271 on wrenches. It's the last set of wrenches I should ever need to buy in this configuration. I can tell you right now, open box 13, super nice. The 14s are a little bit longer. Would I love to have these? Sorry, easily distracted. Would I love to have these in a open box 14 where we had extra length? Absolutely. Do they make them in SAE sizes? Absolutely not. It's one of those things that sucks, but again, I kind of understand it from their front. They have to spend all the money to tool it up, and then how many sets are they going to sell? Like, how many years is it going to take to push open box 14 SAE wrench sets to pay off the tooling and like start to turn a profit? I don't know the answer to that, but based on them not being in production, I'm going to say they've determined it's probably not a great idea. So, although there are oddballs like me that would be like, oh, you got to do it, I would buy that. How many other of you out there would do that, you know? And then, even if there's like 20 of us. This is kind of a niche channel, right? So if there's like 20 of you, they're like, God almighty, I'd get them tomorrow, you know, take my money. That's not close to covering the tooling, right? So it's something they've got to factor in. Just on a stand note, if anyone ever watches this from Stavilla, I would love to see it. I'm sure quite a few other people here would too, but I do realize we're probably in the minority there. So if you're curious what these are little Tektons. That's all that I had in this thing. And then I had like some plier jaws, ironically, as weird as that sounds. But yeah, those got cast to the side. I only have those 3. Probably ought to expand that a little bit because these have been phenomenal. Stavilla doesn't make like the 30-60 wrenches, you know, like offset both sides, angled head. But if they did, I'd probably have those. But the Tektons have been solid. So they've been temporarily, I guess, like, what would the word be? Disheveled, you know. What's the word I'm trying to think of? You kicked out, you know, evicted, I guess. Temporarily, we'll get them a nice home eventually. But for now, the Ernst gripper is holding these Stavilla wrenches, and I am stoked about it. So if anyone was curious, that 15/16 that came bagged, you know I didn't do it dirty. Opened her up with the Stavilla scissors. So on that note, that's about all I've got for you. The main takeaways here: this is truly a dream set of wrenches for me. I'm thrilled to have them, cannot wait to use them, and yes, they will be used. That's one of the perks of having the Cool Tools, is actually getting to use them. Prior to this, SAE stuff, only real setup I had in combination wrenches is Craftsman, and that's what's been getting used. So this will be a nice welcome addition. Again, the thin profile, the feel in the hand, I can't say enough good things. Knox, I would just say I would love to see the box in get a size stamping as well. But it is what it is. I think it's more than sufficient, especially when they're sorted. You know, then you kind of mitigate it. If you're like, I need 9/16 and you fumble through a few sizes, it's not as big of a deal. But that would be my only knock that I honestly have. Overall, I'm thrilled. I'm beyond excited to have these here. It's a kind of a big purchase for me, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of like a final purchase, right? We're going to expand the set a little bit, but past that, like, this is going to be my primary set of combination box end wrenches. So super excited about it. And if you've got any thoughts on these, if any of you are in the same boat, if you bought these 4 years ago and you're like, man, the Stavilla wrenches are great, and you just picked up the whole SAE set, did you do a set Stavilla makes? Did you piece your own together? Did you go like the German efficiency where you hand select, you know, 4 or 5 that you use all the time at personal hobbies or work? Let me know. For everyone else, how do you feel? So we'll probably make dedicated videos on like how I stack and rank things later, but like I said, Gador, I don't really have anything negative to say about those either. And that's been really good too. It's just the price, you know, is just kind of insane, really. So on that note though, the Stavillas are my weapon of choice. That's why they're here. That's why I waited and kind of lusted after them for so long. Finally pulled the trigger. And like so many things in life, you know, like you wait for it, you shop around, you debate it, you put it off, and then you do it, and you're like, man, I should have done this a long time ago. It's kind of my thoughts as I got these, and I was like, I should have bought those years ago. And for whatever reason, that's how I'm wired. I didn't do it, but they're here now. Can't wait to use them. If you check out any of the automotive stuff I put out, you're going to see these, unless we're doing weird stuff on late model vehicles. You're going to see these. These will be turning bolts on 60s and 70s Mopar muscle cars, right? So pretty cool destination for these Stavilla wrenches. They leave Germany, they come to Texas, and next thing they know, they're back in the 60s and 70s on muscle cars. So good times. I hope they enjoy it. I definitely hope to. And with that said, thanks for watching. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, I hope I catch you back here next weekend, and I'll leave it at that. So thanks for watching. More really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. I hope you stay tuned. I hope you enjoy. If you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to do so. Again, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this, what you would have done if you would have done it differently. If you agree with me, if you think it's crazy and you should have just gotten an American wrench, whatever you want to talk about, feel free to throw it down there. And with that said, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and I hope I catch you next Saturday.